The notion that the U.S. debt can ever be paid back is ridiculous. This is what analysts are saying. It's so huge. In June, U.S. Department of the Treasury data revealed that America's national debt has exceeded $26 trillion for the first time in the nation's history as the country continues to grapple with the economic fallout from the novel coronavirus pandemic. Wall Street Journal cited the U.S. Congressional Budget Office, CBO, saying that the country's federal debt has already reached its highest level since World War II and is currently equal to the size of the nation's economy. CBO suggested that the debt may exceed 100% of U.S. gross domestic product, GDP, in the next fiscal year, which kicks off October 1st due to the hefty financial response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Joseph Gagnon, a senior fellow of the Peterson Institute for International Economics and a former visiting associate director of the Division of Monetary Affairs at the U.S. Federal Reserve Board, said that the pandemic has led to a situation when there is a large increase in government debt in most countries this year, obviously. Gagnon said that the tax revenues fall as businesses close or shrink and a government spends more to subsidize workers and firms. In the U.S., the Trump tax cut of 2018 already increased the deficit somewhat before the pandemic struck. Michael Pinto, president and founder of Pinto Portfolio Strategies, recalled that America's national debt to GDP ratio has skyrocketed to 136%. That's the highest since World War II. He said that another way of looking at the U.S. debt is that it has now soared to reach an incredible nearly 1,000% of annual federal revenue. 1,000% of annual federal revenue, with the fiscal deficit for 2022 to stand at $3.3 trillion, which Pinto said makes the situation even worse. Therefore, not only is a shrinking amount of revenue being dwarfed by the tremendous amount of debt, but the government is adding to this debt at a rate that is equal to about 17% of GDP every year. In other words, the notion that this debt can never be paid back is ridiculous, Pinto said. The analyst said that even though the coronavirus pandemic had exacerbated U.S. profligacy, the debt and deficits have been a problem in the country ever since the Great Recession of 2008. Even in what some have recently characterized as the greatest economy in history, deficits were rising at a $1 trillion rate before the outbreak of this virus. The real problem is fiscal and monetary madness in D.C., which has been adopted in order to perpetuate pump up asset bubbles, he said. Pinto was echoed by Brian Riedel, senior fellow at the conservative Manhattan Institute for Policy Research. He underscored that America's national debt, which amounted to $17 trillion in early 2020, is projected to soar to a staggering $33 trillion by the end of the decade. Riedel said that with foreign debt purchases relatively stagnant for the past decade, it's unclear how domestic savings will finance this unprecedented surge in federal borrowing. U.S. trillion-dollar deficits are here to stay. He predicts that overall the COVID-19 pandemic is expected to add $2.1 trillion to the U.S. debt over the next 10 years, as much of the new spending and revenue losses are offset by the savings of lower interest rates on the debt. He said that although the pandemic and subsequent recession will finally end, it appears that trillion-dollar deficits are here to stay. He concluded by adding that these unsustainable long-term deficits will be Washington's task and will come amid its efforts to end the pandemic and rescue the economy. The comments followed U.S. Department of Treasury data in June indicating the country's national debt exceeded $26 trillion for the first time in history as the nation grapples with an economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. The U.S. government provided up to $5 trillion in coronavirus bailout funds since March 2020. The Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security CARES Act was passed on March 27, and that included $2 trillion, while the $3 trillion Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions, or HEROES for short, was adopted in May. This is on Sputnik News by Oleg Barunov. Please leave your comments. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.